Good morning, Boker Tov. Today I want to discuss the idea of Shlemut, or wholeness, with you. So let's begin with our text, which is a very interesting one. It's actually part of a very famous story, in which we read, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem ir Shechem. And Jacob came to Shalem, the city of Shechem, Be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan, later to become the land of Israel, Mi Padan Aram, Bevo Mi Padan Aram, when he came from his journey from Padan Aram, Vayichanet Penei Ha'ir, and he went to encamp by the city. Wholeness or wellness has become a very, very major idea for us, especially I would suggest over the past few months, even if it hasn't been before. Many of us would agree that Shlemut or wholeness is a combination of good physical and mental health. For me, I know that the feeling is experiential. It's when I see a long-held hope come to reality. When I listen to my children at their b'nai mitzvah, or I watch them graduate, or when the school year ends and I get a letter from a student saying that I actually had an impact on their lives. That's when I feel shalem. That's when I feel whole. It would really be a great idea, though, to figure out how to get into that state of mind more often and not just on special occasions. And I'm going to suggest that today's text actually gives a pointer about how we can do that. We probably realize that this text comes from the very famous story of Jacob returning home to the land of Israel many years after he first fled from his brother Esau. We recall that he was with his father-in-law Laban for over 20 years, and after he married his cousins Leah and Rachel, he had many, many difficult journeys to make, both physically and mentally. He had a tension-filled existence for these 20 years, and he must have felt that he journeyed from the frying pan into the fire. At this point, on a simple level, our verse says, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem ir Shechem. Jacob came back to Shalem, also known as Shechem. In fact, Robert Alter's newest translation of the Torah even says, Shalem is another name of Shechem. Jacob came home. That's all the text wants to tell us. And part of being whole was simply the idea of coming home after many years. But if we look at this text in Hebrew, it reveals another layer. Vayavo Yaakov Shalem in Hebrew means Jacob returned whole. He didn't just complete a physical journey. He completed an emotional journey, which began years ago in the Torah when Vayetze Yaakov, when he left. When he left, he was troubled. Vayavo Shalem, and now he comes back feeling whole. He left broken and fearful, and he returned a new man who is now whole, in touch with his physical and emotional sides. He had learned through fighting with his uncle, with his wives, and with an angel, just who he was. So deeply, in fact, that the name Israel was added to connote this new man. How appropriate that is for us in this month of Elul, when all of us have to readjust our realities and our perceptions. This difficult journey for us has an upside. We've learned through the COVID pandemic that we have new inner strengths, and these are what we have to carry forward. And we may yet receive the reward of Shlemut, Shalom, or peace, which is a very logical Hebrew language, comes from the same root. When we're in a state of wholeness, we feel as though we're at peace. Especially in these contentious and disruptive times, that's a blessing. And on that note, let me conclude with a Mishaberach, the blessing, which we now realize is a prayer for Shlemut. Even though we say it for the sick, it also applies to the healthy. We pray that we'll have refuat hanefesh or refuat haguf. May we be healed in soul and in body. and have the instrumentality to remain healthy in body and soul throughout this year and many more to come.